Howdy neighbors, David here. And today on Boondock Stallions, we're going to be taking a look at A Nightmare on Elm Street Trilogy, a revised viewing order, Part 2. What? Part 2? But David, didn't you see your video last week? It was perfect. It was flawless. It was bulletproof. There was no way you could possibly improve upon that story. And that's true. There's no way I could improve upon it. But a viewer did improve upon it and hit me up on Facebook. So today we're going to give a big shout out to Jess Pleva. And thank you for giving me a superior ending to my Nightmare trilogy. If you are unfamiliar with my trilogy of Nightmare on Elm Street films, please go back and watch my first video and then come back and watch this one after you give it a like and a subscribe, and we'll carry on because I'm not really going to go over that video again. We're just going to talk about the alternate ending to those movies. So after using Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 as the first two chapters in my Nightmare on Elm Street trilogy, we ended with Freddy's Dead because it perfectly followed the rules of a horror trilogy as outlined in the Scream franchise. The reason I didn't use any of the other movies in the series is because they really weren't up to scratch with fitting in place with a trilogy, and some of them just were out of the running completely, such as Wes Craven's New Nightmare. That was left out because it's a movie about the movies and therefore not a sequel. Freddy vs. Jason is its own universe that's cherry-picked the best parts of the Freddy franchise and the Jason franchise so that the two could duke it out for an hour and a half and take all of my money and time for a great fight. And then there's the 2010 remake Nightmare on Elm Street that's a remake and doesn't really count, even though it did in fact follow the rules as it was supposed to for a horror remake as outlined in the Scream franchise. But that's another video for another day. Today, we're going to be applying the rules of the trilogy to Wes Craven's New Nightmare as our new third movie in the Nightmare on Elm Street trilogy. The reason it didn't stand out to me before, aside from the fact that I'm very dogmatic with rules, is because these rules came at me in reverse order. They came at me 3, 2, 1 instead of 1, 2, 3, and that's why it completely didn't register anywhere in my brain. So, here we go with Wes Craven's New Nightmare as it applies to the horror movie trilogy. Rule number 3, forget the past. Anything you think you know about the past is wrong. The sins of yesterday are about to break out and destroy you. This is how the movie starts off. It hits the ground running. We've watched A Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and the story of Nancy and her fights against Freddy and her growth as she trains the next generation of Dream Warriors to carry on after her inevitable death at the end of Nightmare 3. And this was all fake. None of it was real. It was a movie. I mean, I know we know it was a movie, but what we didn't know is that we were watching a movie that was set inside of another movie's universe. So now those movies are over, and we're following the story of the actors and actresses that made that horror franchise popular. So that's a very, very big check as far as everything you think you know about the past and the history is wrong. So kudos, Wes Craven's New Nightmare and Jess Pleva for that. Rule number 2, anyone can die in this movie. That includes the main character. Sorry, Sid, but that means you. Once again, very much the case. In A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, we watched Nancy, our main character, die at the hands of Freddy in the next main character's arms. She was dead and gone. But that was fake. As rule number 3 let us know, none of that actually happened. It was a story in a movie, and Nancy is a fictional character. Now we're following Heather Langenkamp, the actress who played Nancy and gave her all of her strength to defeat Freddy in the films. She is acting as a kind of gatekeeper for Freddy in the real world that he has to get past in order to reign supreme and let his evil go all over the place and just be awful as he usually is. And her life is very much at stake in this entire movie. So if she dies here, she dies for real. So big check, New Nightmare. And then there's rule number 1. Your killer in this movie is going to be much more powerful than he ever was before. Freddy broke out of the movies and came to attack the real world. Check. Well, Stallions, that brings us to the end of the video, I'm sad to say. If you liked what you saw, please hit like, comment, give it a subscribe. It'll all be greatly appreciated here at Boondock Stallions. In the upcoming weeks, I've got videos for you fans of Doctor Who. I've got a big Torchwood theory. I believe I found Torchwood 4 and am making a video revealing where it is, who's been running it, and why we haven't seen it in like 10 years. I'm also a big fan of the Joker, and I was very disappointed with what Jared Leto did in the Suicide Squad, but I believe I've found an old theory with a new twist of my own that could really save what he did and possibly the future of DC Comics and their extended universes in the movies. If you're a fan of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I'm doing a video on that. I live in Texas, y'all. It's kind of my thing. Pirates of the Caribbean. It's been 17 years that that movie's been around, and I've got a great theory. I believe that Captain Jack has a sibling, and I believe that we've seen the sibling in a couple of the movies, and we'll talk more about that here in July. So, on a side note, I've lost 176 pounds, and I've done this through diet, exercise, and a lot of hard work. And if anybody at all out there is interested in diet, exercise tips, if you want to talk and maybe get a little advice, I'm not a trained coach. I'm not certified. I'm just somebody that used to weigh over 430 pounds and got tired of it and found ways to make it work. So if you want to hit me up and chat about weight loss, hit me up on Instagram, David Victorious. Until then, I'll see you next week, Stallions. Be excellent to each other.